All right, everyone, welcome back into another props video, touching on the top prop bets for this Thursday night football game. So as always, I like to start out with that preview from ODDSJAM Sportsbook's view. Looking at right now, we can see that Kansas City is going to be a heavy favorite in this game, okay? Going to make it a little bit more difficult, I would say, to predict because of that. The over and under is going to be set at 47.5 or so, which, decently high scoring. On the injury front, I would say the biggest injury news that we are waiting on is actually going to be Travis Kelce. Kind of my expectation is that we are going to see someone like Noah Gray continue to be someone that we're probably looking at, whether that be props-wise or if you're someone that plays NFL DFS, looking at him in that regard. Interested to see where the line is that comes out on Noah Gray. If you guys remember a few weeks ago, Noah Gray was like a free square, hoping that we get that again, but we'll go ahead and see. Looking at the snap counts from last week, we did see Noah Gray be the second highest snap getter, tied with MVS, I guess, and then Travis Kelce. So we did see Noah Gray's snap count go down a little bit in week 4 against the Jets. Just kind of seemed like they didn't really need him to get any snaps. He's been someone that's just on the field a ton. I think we can expect like 60% of the snaps, even if Travis Kelce does play his normal full allotment of snaps, which if the game is going to be that big of a blowout, tough to imagine Kelce getting that many snaps. And then if we go ahead and look at the Denver Broncos side of it, Javonte Williams off the injury report, okay, and that was kind of the biggest thing that we were waiting on for news. My biggest question is going to be, what is that going to mean for the running back room? And I say that because if you look at last week, Jaleel McLaughlin really stood out on film, still only played 33% of the snaps. To me, it kind of seems like that is just going to be his role for now. It does remind me a little bit of the Alvin Kamara situation way back when he was a rookie, where if he continues to make these plays that just pop on film, it's going to be tough for them to leave him off the field. That was kind of what happened with Kamara at the beginning of his rookie year, and then just became a consistent fantasy asset. Given how much he has popped, it seems like they should get him more work. Now, a lot of people are going to say that for Marvin Mims as well, two players that have really popped on a per play basis, and they should be getting more work. I was honestly super shocked at Jaleel McLaughlin's snaps only being at 33% because he ended up with 14 or 13 total opportunities in that game. Like, he was all over the field, looking good, doing it as well. So we'll see what his role is, whether that is expanded or stays the same. I don't think it's going to be reduced at all with Javonte Williams back. That being said, P. Ryan looked good as well, so it's very difficult to say. Like, I think it'll be 33, and then probably Javonte leading the way, although very tough to say there. And really, to me, the props that I want to start out with for this game are going to be looking at the Denver Broncos. Let's look at the receptions props. If you guys have been following the channel, you know I've pretty much been saying this every single week. There are certain receiver situations where I don't think there should be a big separation. This is one of those. Courtland Sutton between Jerry Jeudy, a full reception difference. That seems very strange. Now, last week we did see that Courtland Sutton only had 3 targets in the game. It felt like a mistake. Even the broadcast crew made a point of emphasis on that. Like, oh, finally, it was very late in the game where he got a reception as well. That's kind of been the theme lately. It's that, like, he's not getting involved in the passing game early on, and then they just like remember that he's their best receiver and then go to him. Jerry Jeudy did have 7 targets in that game, was much more involved, and so I guess I get why he'd be the higher player in terms of receptions, but at the same time, there's no way they're leaving that film and saying, oh man, that was good, not getting Courtland Sutton the ball. No, they're gonna watch that. All right, we need to get him the ball. And so what we're going to see, though, is that Vegas kind of has this set as a 50-50 split right here. Okay, no edge there at all for Courtland Sutton at 3.5 receptions. So if you think, like, let's say they're playing from behind, game script goes that way, where they're going to have to throw the football a little bit more, then yeah, Courtland Sutton getting over 3.5 receptions would probably be a very easy cash. And that's sometimes the difficult part about these individual games, is that really with PrizePicks, the ideal approach is just hammering home the missed prices that they have compared to the market. And when we get these individual games, especially for NFL, it's much easier for them to adjust and correct. And so a lot of the times we're trying to do some correlated slips. And so I'm not exactly sure we need to go in on that. Although to me, just using my eyes, that seems like the one we would want to go with the most. He's just on the field a lot too, like over 80% of the snaps in every single game. Now, what I find interesting is the kind of lack of passing attempts that we have seen Russell Wilson have. My biggest question is it going to be like this Miami game where we see him get, closer to 40 passing attempts? Like, that'd be ideal. Now, last week was just a very interesting game for Russell Wilson, and really this season, he's definitely better this year than he was last year. Definitely more like the Seattle Seahawks Russell Wilson that we saw. Last week, though, there's like a very bad look for him. I mentioned this maybe in the Taco Tuesday video, but if anyone has seen the replacements, the opening scene where the starting quarterback goes for the QB scramble and just takes the QB slide instead of going for the touchdown, and the owner is like, Martellus, you're a wimp. That's how it felt like with Russell Wilson. There's a rushing opportunity for him to score a touchdown on, and instead of like making the defender miss, he just curls up into a ball and does a QB slide. It was strange. Like, I'm like, dude, you literally could have made that guy miss and score a touchdown. It seems like he's playing for him, honestly. It's like, that was my takeaway. Now, has he played poorly? No. At the same time, it's not elite. Like, the fantasy data says he's playing better than he is on paper. Let's put it that way. And so that's my long way of saying that, to me, that's going to lead to really just inconsistencies, even more so in this game. It's going to make this game a little bit harder to predict because we really don't know what to expect from Russell Wilson. Now, it is a short week, so I don't think we're going to see more snaps to Marvin Mims. I don't see that happening. I think we're going to see Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy get a lot of work. The biggest question mark is obviously going to be with the running back position. Maybe we're just staying away from that. Now, I've already seen on Twitter, a lot of people are going with Marvin Mims for over his receiving yards. And let's just take a peek at that one because we can see the lack of targets, right? Let's just pull up the snaps as well. Like, looking at last week, snap count wise, only 33%, which is up, but still not that high. And now, really, to me, the biggest appeal would be him playing in more snaps if the game's a blowout. At the same time, we didn't really see that happen in that Miami game that was a blowout. So it's really tough to say whether or not we should be kind of buying into that. Now, yes, can he get it there with one reception? Sure. I don't like the snap counts. And so it's tough. It's tough to see that happening, especially with Jerry Jeudy back. Like, in a way, they kind of, I don't want to say this because they've been trying to get the ball to Marvin Mims in more unique ways. He fumbled the end around. It was like, I think it was a double reverse, actually. He fumbled a punt as well. So they clearly want to get him involved, but when it's passing down the field, they're kind of just using Jerry Jeudy in the way that they were kind of using Marvin Mims for the first couple of games. And so when we look at Denver, I would almost say the better props that we are going to get are going to be looking at the ones with Javonte Williams, because to me, it is tough for them to go back to Javonte Williams. He didn't look bad. Samaje Perine looked good as well. But with how good McLaughlin looked, it's tough for me to see them being like, all right, we need to get Javonte the ball. Like, he might still be the starter, but it should be a three-headed monster this week. And I would say almost on the passing downs, they would want to roll with McLaughlin a little bit more and even Perine a little bit more. So I would say this is probably the best Denver bet that we are currently getting, would be under 12.5 receiving yards on PrizePicks. Could do rush yards as well. Like, once again, game script wise, you would probably see it be more in the favor of Denver having to pass the football, right? And then with that being said, Javonte just might not be on the field as much then. Brandon Johnson for under receiving yards, not really too much there. And what's crazy is, like, the only good over bet that we are seeing here is actually going to be with Cortland Sutton there. And that it's not good. It's basically a 50-50 split. So let's just take a quick peek at underdog for Denver and see if we are getting any good props there. And I mean, no, not really. Like, basically more of the same. Now, you could hedge a little bit with the Javonte Williams passing yard prop, 2-yard difference, not huge, but that can be that could add up, right? But yeah, not really yet. Like, we got one for Denver. Okay, maybe once we start getting more props for them, we can, adjust. But let's go ahead and get into Kansas City. All right, so for Kansas City, we are getting a little bit more props that we should maybe be going in on. We can see Sky Moore. PrizePicks is currently valuing them a little bit too high. This is probably one that I'm going to keep off the bet slip at the end of this video, because I'm going to assume that's going to be adjusted by the time most of you guys get in there. It reminds me, I've been trying to give this reminder out to people. Hit the notification bell as well for this channel, because a lot of the times a good night could literally be the difference between you guys getting to the video right away or you guys getting to the video an hour later, especially with NBA coming up as well. That could end up being a huge thing. So I just want to call that out. But looking at it, guys, let's take a peek at the Sky Moore prop. And so we'll look at their snaps from last week. We already saw Sky Moore actually did see his snaps go down the last 2 weeks. Justin Watson seemingly getting around 45% of the snaps. Kadarius Toney is going to continue to see his snaps rise as long as he stays off the injury report. Rice, I think people want him to be a thing more than he is. So that's probably more of a stay away for me. He played a lot in the 2 games where Kadarius Toney got injured and was just not playing in. So it's tough to really go with him. And then one weird thing from last week was that when I was watching the film, and I watched it with the audio on because a lot of the times the broadcast crew would give us little tidbits that are typically fascinating. And one of them was they pretty much said right away that expect Ross to play a little bit more in this game, or expect him to be a part of the game plan. And it's not to say that he wasn't. Like, he did have 4 targets, 2 receptions, 28 yards. Like, that happened, which is more than he had prior. But when we look at the snaps, he didn't play any. Like, he literally got a target on all the snaps that he played, and I'm pretty sure. Let's take a peek at the count instead of percent here. Okay, in all but 2 of the snaps that he was on, he got a target. That's kind of what happens with Tony as well, just as an FYI. So that's my long way of saying, are we actually going to see more of Ross in this game? And if so, who is that taken away from? And I don't really know the answer to that. I just kind of think we're going to see a mix of them. This is like a running back room, but it's like a 5-headed monster where it could be a little bit of Sky Moore, it could be a little bit of Rice, it could be a little bit of Ross, it could be a little bit of Kadarius Toney. And really the only 2 players that we know kind of their role is MVS and Justin Watson. And that's not pretty as well, right? That's where I'm going back to. Probably want to go with Noah Gray, and I'll get into the running back situation here in a second. That might be the best approach. And so that's my long way of saying, yeah, honestly, if we're getting Sky Moore at 28.5 and we do see his snaps come down a little bit, we could be betting the under there. Jerick McKinnon for over 8.5 rushing yards. We can see the Vegas line is favoring the under, but at 9.5. Projection data likes it a little bit more at 8. You know, this is one third down play where he gets a draw on, let's say, 3rd and 12, gets 10 yards, and it hits, right? The appeal here is that we know Denver is terrible against the run. The issue is that just not getting the yards, right? Like, it seems very risky, and it just seems like a bet that we'd be forcing just to make a bet on for this slate. So from there with Justin Watson, I would actually rather bet the over on underdog. I would say at 21.5, which is the exact same as Vegas is expecting for this game. Like, he has literally been their best receiver thus far this season. Like, he is going to get 45% of the snaps. That is just going to happen. And given how bad Denver has been, you kind of expect him to get some work. The only issue that I have with Watson compared to Tony and probably Ross, is he's not getting manufactured touches where those other 2 are. It's a little bit of a concern, but all in all, we can see he's been able to get the over in all but 1 game. So I'd rather make that bet on underdog. From there, MVS, another bet where I'd probably want to make it on underdog would be MVS for over 18.5 receiving yards. And the reason I say that is because he has not had like that random spike week, that random really good week, and kind of given the matchup, like maybe that finally occurs this week. It's just strange that he hasn't really had a big game. I know he's not playing as many snaps as he used to, but it just seems like he's due. And I hate giving that's not a proper take. That's not proper analysis for you guys. And I hate saying that, but at the same time, it has felt like that. It feels like that. From there, I feel like a lot of people are going to be going with this one for Isaiah Pacheco for over rushing attempts because it should correlate with the game. At the same time, he's only gotten that over rushing attempts once thus far this season. And that was in a game that they're more or less not able to pass in. Like, Patrick Mahomes played terribly in that game. And even in a blowout against Chicago, he didn't get that many rushing attempts. Like, we might just see CEH playing a little bit more, who has looked pretty good himself as well. And so that's kind of a stay away to me. And guys, I really wish we were getting a Kadarius Toney receiving prop for him this week, because I feel like it's going to be at like 2.5 or even 3. And if that happens, I'd be betting the over there. Okay. And I do think we'll eventually get that prop. They just manufacture touches to him. Like, literally all of them are easy receptions. So I'm hoping we get one there. Heck, even 4 I might dabble with, assuming that he's still going to be playing a lot of snaps. Because yes, week 1, we know I mentioned it. I don't know if a lot of people saw it that way, but it was just more or less someone rushing back from injury and just not being confident in that. And I feel like that's when you start to have those drops. And since then, he's looking like more like himself. But all in all, I'm very curious as to what kind of prop we get for Noah Gray, because like I said, he's been someone that we've been able to kind of tally because he's been disrespected. Like, if it's at 10.5 again for receiving yards, heck, even 13.5, I'd probably be betting the over there. So I'm kind of waiting on those 2 lines. Now, guys, I'm going to be giving the bet of the day on Underdog. So if you guys are someone that's new to Underdog and you guys want to make that bet, make sure to be using the promo code 9to5 to get a 100% match on a deposit of up to $100. That's also going to kick back some money my way. So that's just a way to help support the channel even further. But looking at these are going to be my 3 favorite props for the day. Justin Watson, I just think he's going to continue to have a role. Once again, I want to echo that. Kadarius Toney, I want a receptions prop, and Noah Gray, I don't really know which one I would want. Probably receiving yards prop for him. Just want to make that clear. And maybe even like a McLaughlin one if we get that. I might roll with something like that for him. I do think that McLaughlin is going to have a role, and I think Samaje Perine is going to have a role as well. So thus, I think Javonte Williams for under 36.5 rushing yards is going to be the way to go. This number is 35.5 on PrizePicks. Not a big edge, but there's slight edge there. And I'm doing rushing receiving yards for Noah Gray there, because his receiving yards is the exact same thing. He's not going to get a rushing attempt more likely than not. Like literally, that's not likely at all. But you never know. Like whatever. If it's the same line, might as well bet that one. And then with Russell Wilson, we do see this line at 21 on PrizePicks. So I'd rather just bet it over on Underdog at 20.5, which he has been able to do 2 or 3 out of the 5 games thus far this year. Hasn't been able to crush it, but you know, in a game where they're probably throwing a little bit more, where he's getting closer to 35, 38 passing attempts, that is something that I'm going to like. Now that's going to be all for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the coverage. If you did, you know what to do. Get that like and subscribe. Let's have a good slate. And as always, let's keep cashing. Oh, if you guys want to access to any of those tools, make sure to be clicking the links in the description below. 95 membership available for just $10 a month. All right, that's going to be all. Thanks for watching. As always, let's keep cashing.